Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to Ivil Orway Update. Today we are talking about the three paths that we can take as patriots. There are three specific roads forward that we can take, and there are three definite directions that this thing could go, at least three ways, okay? And but this three-way choice between these potentially very different futures is going to decide whether or not we survive what's coming and how well we survive what's coming. I would like to say that this is the last video you'll ever have to see that's all grainy like this with awful sound and glare on my glasses and all that stuff because of the gracious gift I received from a viewer. I will be purchasing new video and audio equipment, so now I will be able to present to you some videos that aren't well, you may get to see how I really look. They might tune out after that. You're like, man, I had no idea that guy was so bad looking until he got a better camera. Here in Oklahoma is a stupid commercial for a car dealership, and they got a local clown type comedian. He's not actual clown; he just clowns around, you know, the goofy guy type of comedian who's on one of our morning shows, and you know, he got a new camera, and the owner of the car lot wanted to go back to the old camera because he liked the way he looked better before he got the new 4K camera. So maybe telling me, go back to the grainy camera, Sage. We don't want to see your old whiskers. No, but I'm going to be upgrading some gear. That's one of the reasons I haven't been Johnny on the spot with videos, is that sometimes it's a full-time job to take care of everything here on the homestead and deal with the research it takes to stay up to date on this ever-changing world that we live in, and also trying to grow the channel and do the things necessary to build this as a business. And on top of that, I'm old and broke down. I sleep in 45-minute shifts. I have to get up every 45 minutes and walk circles around the bed and pray until my knee stops hurting, and then I can lay down for a little bit longer. I was thinking maybe I should hang upside down and sleep like a bat. But all right, let's get back to the three definite pathways that we can go in the future. Pathway number one is the Titor timeline, which really is the tale of a uprising among the common people and the rise of militias, who then cause a civil war to occur, which turns into an international inflammation. I don't know. That's probably what's wrong with my knees. Inflammation. Things get inflamed in the world, as it were, and nukes go off, and it's not a great future. Then there's another pathway where what we're seeing happening in America right now with this new fiat government and this new banana republic that they keep calling a democracy. America's not a democracy. They're trying with this thing they're trying to build. They're calling it democracy, but the America I come from is a republic, right? I actually went to church in a strange church, nearby church, just popped in anonymously this past Sunday, and the guy that was preaching, I was sitting right in the middle of a half-empty church from COVID distancing, right? And you know, this is a pretty good-sized church too, and this guy called America a democracy. And I just said, republic. Well, it's like everyone heard me. And it was a dead spot. He said, democracy, paused to take a breath. And I said, republic. And I got some amens. I got a couple of thank you. Right, that's right, republic. You know? This is why it's hard for me to go to church. Are you sure you want Sage at your church? I can be disruptive. It's not a democracy. It's a republic. Sorry. Pet peeve of mine. So, this thing that they're building that they're calling a democracy, which is actually a restructuring, a reset, a global reset into globalism, making way for one world government and ultimately a one world type of religion, which in itself is anti-Christian at its core. A new religion that is mostly anti-Christian. And I'll scope that out in future coffee talks about what I'm seeing come to light about what that will look like. So what we could be looking at, and this is choice number 2 here, We got the Tidor timeline, which this is a civil war leading to a nuclear incident. And then the Revelations timeline, which says this is the beast system and the beginning of the tribulation period. And then the third way we could go is to try to stick to the political, nonviolent, and an optimistic path that politicians and people who are less fanciful about fantastic ideas like time travelers and the end of time, and they're just trying to fix things the old-fashioned way politically, then this may be the perfect opportunity for the rise of a third party. And this rise of this third party might actually somehow play into either timeline and cause the Tidor. These could merge. You know, the book of Revelations, as we have interpreted it as best we can, tying it to current events, could merge with what I've interpreted from this time traveler, Titor, whoever he was, and his tale of the Civil War in America, and tie these two things together into one common and I'm kind of doing that. I'm stitching that together in my own theories even as we speak. But the third ideology may be the way we have to go if we want to remain peaceful. If we don't want to be singled out as terrorists, if we don't want to be accused of being something we're not, if we don't want to be accused of being a terrorist, a homegrown insurrectionist, a rebel, if we don't want to be labeled with this and we want to stick within the system available to us, then something no one is talking about is the idea of a political solution ending in a amicable and willing separation, a deunion of the nation without war. And I think as a man of conscience, as a warrior monk, the warrior monk must always choose the way of the monk first and the way of the warrior last. Unless there is no time and you're responding to some immediate threat, you must first, and even then, it's often not time to engage in violence when many people think it is. And the monk side of the warrior monk, of the priest warrior, the other side of that, the David character, is to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, know when to use violence and when to use cunning and political means, as it were, by today's standards. So, that third pathway could be us going the complete political route. And I understand people are going to talk about election integrity. I'm going to try to keep that topic out of this video just to stop the Al Gore rhythms. You know what I'm saying? Al Gore's got rhythms, Al Gore. Al Gore rhythms. Anyhow, he's Al Gore's cousin, Al Gore rhythms. We're trying to keep him from getting too upset about what I'm saying. So I'm going to stay off of that topic. And because I'm going to present to you now very briefly, because we've talked about Titor, we've talked about the book of Revelations, and I will talk more about that in the future and also later on in this video. But for right now, let's zero in on what a third political party would look like and how it could lead to a peaceful separation, or at least a restoration of some kind of Republican form of government and a move away from this globalist democracy that if you call it a democracy in here, I'm liable to not just delete your comment, but ban you from the channel. Really, just don't call America a democracy, because it's not. You won't find anything in historical documents referring to this country as a democracy, and it's in the Pledge of Allegiance to this republic for which I stand, not to this democracy for which you foreigners stand for. That's what we're boiled down to here, is globalists who want to include America into some kind of global world government cabal that they're going to sit in charge of, and they want to annex us like, Dallas annexes some little small town like Elm Tree or something on the edge of Dallas and makes it part of Dallas now, and you don't have your government anymore. That's what they want to do. They want to usurp the United States and put it into some kind of new world order. And so this is one way, or maybe the next step. The logical, nonviolent next step to stop them is to do the best we can to establish a third party. But here's the thing. Right now, Republicans here and conservatives on my channel, Christian conservatives, are bowing up right now. They're probably already typing an angry comment. Hold on to your angry comment till you hear me out. Because your comment will go like this. But Sage, that will just give it to the Democrats from now on. If we split the Republican Party, we'll never win another election. Well, I'm kind of black-pilled right now, and I think as long as you keep throwing your hat in with these rhino Republicans, even when you win, you still lose, right? And they're going to turn their back. I believe it's just a guess right now at this point, at the filming of this video, that there are probably going to be some Republicans, maybe even Mitch McConnell himself, who votes to impeach the president after he's no longer the president, which I think is not even constitutionally possible. But they're going to do it anyway because, that's one thing that the rhinos and the Dems and the leftists and the squad all have in common is they don't believe in your personal rights. They just don't. They just going to make it up as they go. They don't believe that the Constitution is really the law of the land. They're too authoritarian for that. They want to be the law of the land. That's why they love democracy, because, democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for dinner. We know how that vote comes out every time. So it's mob rule. And a constitutional republic puts the rights of the individual above the rights of the group. This is why things like mandates of any kind, whether they be for, vaccination days or ask Mays, okay? Excuse me, I'm battling allergies right now. I don't have it's allergies, I hope. Anytime you're an ex-smoker, you always watch those chronic coughs, but I think it's allergies. But at any rate, that was a side trail. Let's get back to facts here. So the fact is that as long as we keep voting for rhinos who vote with the Dems when it really matters, as long as we keep letting the Republicans and the Democrat, two main parties, which are really just a mono party now, they're like two sides to the same coin, and there really is no choice. And you're like, Sage, you're sounding black-pilled. I'm getting black-pilled. It was impossible for me to be black-pilled as long as Donald Trump and Rand Paul were both in the Republican Party, because I dig both those guys, what they stand for, the things they say, and how they do their business. Okay, guys like he's gone out of the politics now. Trey Gowdy, guys like that. Guys with real integrity, I believe. And you're going to say, Trump's got integrity? Well, he conducted himself with a great deal of integrity. And had I been president, I probably would have gone full-out capitalist version of whatever dictator you want to put in there. I would have gone full-blown dictator on him. But that's why you should never put me in power, because it's my way or the highway. It's why I live in a cabin in the woods or a van down by the river. No one wants to live with somebody who can't. Yeah, it's my way or the highway. Yeah, it's tough to be in a band with me. My BS level, if you're a musician, you'll get this. My BS level and my talent level I'm just so talented I can get away with it, and I know where the line is, so I do okay in bands. But I have been the center of some drama. But so you don't want me to be the head of your new party. I kind of see myself, if there is some formation of some kind of new way of doing things, I kind of see myself as a Benjamin Franklin kind of character. And it's mainly because I'm just old and scruffy looking. But I have some similarities with that guy. And, I don't want to be in charge, but I want to be amongst the men who decide who's in charge. This is who I am. But at any rate, the founding of a new party, you're saying would gut the Republican Party and cause the Democrats to always win. But I have a prediction for you now. And, you might need coffee to swallow this one, and you might not. It might go down smooth. But I believe that the other side, that the Democrats are also equally split. And that I just saw a recent poll that asked the question, if Donald Trump started a new Patriot Party, who would you vote for in the next presidential election? And I believe it was like 43% said they were going to vote for Democrats. And 17% said they were going to vote for Republicans. And 23% said they would vote for a Patriot Party. And then don't do the math here because I'm trying to remember these numbers at random here. No notes, right? So this might not add up to 100. But then it was like something like 14% were, I can see the comment section with the math right now. I'm not going to do the math, but 14%, I think, or some number close to that, would vote for some other person than any of those three choices, right? So when you add up the numbers, we got a good chance with hashtag walking away some of these people out of the Democratic Party, and yes, gutting the Republican Party and creating a new Patriot Party that hopefully Trump will lead. Now, there's been some information and some counter information, which somebody's disinformation, because I've heard that Donald Trump announced he was starting the party, okay? But then on the other hand, I heard he was distancing himself from the group who was starting the Patriot Party. But nonetheless, I think if the right splits, right, I believe the leftists will see that as their cue and their opportunity to split the Democratic Party. And you'll get a socialist party that arises. And what we'll have is a horse race like we haven't had in 150 years in this country, or better, since before the Civil War, I think, was the last time we had we had an almost three-way election. People are going to go back to the Ross Perot paradigm. And they're going to say that Ross Perot is proof that we can't split the Republican Party and still win, because that's how we got Clinton with less than a majority of the voters, right? Because the Republican Party was split. But I believe that Perot didn't do the things necessary to split the party completely. That if he failed at one thing, it was to pull as many people as he could out of the Republican Party till they were coming in at a distant third, which did not happen for Ross Perot. He barely blipped. I mean, it's still in the teens. I think he got like 16% of the vote, but with 43%, Bill Clinton was elected. I was very upset. I felt like I'd made a mistake as a voter and as an activist. I was a young man and I was playing playing music in bars, but I was a Perot supporter. But the thing is, the problem I think we have with Ross Perot is that he just didn't activate the base. And he wasn't the best candidate. He was not as good as Donald Trump. He got flustered easy. He wasn't as good a communicator as Donald Trump is. And I think it's because Ross Perot was a CEO and so is Trump. But the way that, Ross Perot is notorious for this true story of firing one of his top right-hand men at EDS, where I used to work. If you want to know where I used to work, there it is. At EDS out in Plano, Texas. He fired one of his high-up guys there, Perot did, because he salted his food before he tasted it. And Perot saw in that one action that if a man was foolish enough to assume his food was unsalted when he had no proof it was unsalted, it might be oversalted for his taste at this point. He didn't even check. He just added salt on the assumption it needed it, right? And Ross Perot canned him on the spot. And I think, although that's a very admirable story, I think he was the same guy that made them mow the grass in 105-degree weather. All the people that did landscaping out of the EDS complex in Plano, Texas, they all had to wear white shirt and tie while they're mowing the grass, while they're weed whacking, right? So some of his hardness made him less likable than Trump. And some of Trump's hardness makes him less likable. But at the same time, we're tired of the politicians who just tell everybody, what they want to hear. And, he's definitely not that guy. I was going to do a kind of a throw the Trump under the bus thing and talk about the things that he promised that he failed to do. And then I saw a rant by Alex Jones here just the other day. And I decided that was, what? I think he's right. Trump did the best he can. We can't throw a guy under the bus who did what he could. I think he was shocked that he would give an order to the government as commander-in-chief, as the head of the United States government, and the people would go, yeah, I don't think so, Trump. No, go fish. We don't have that option here. We're not doing that. And I think he could have drained the swamp if he had anybody that would have followed his orders. They just decided that they weren't going to recognize him as president. And that was a huge reason why he didn't do all the things that he could do. If they impeach him, I think it'll give even more rise to a third party within the Republican Party to just break away and go, all you Republicans, that voted for him, you'll never get my vote again. I've already talked about how I'll never vote a straight Republican ticket again because no Republican rhino is going to get a free ride off whatever populist candidate I'm voting for, like I did this last time. And plus, and this time I didn't get to do it because I didn't live in Oklahoma and wasn't registered to vote during the primaries. And, I knew I was leaving during the primaries in Texas, so I didn't vote. Getting involved in the Republican primaries and taking control of the Republican Party in your area is an option to the third-party system, right? To a third-party system. But I think that the confusion, I think we should just go ahead and let the anger flow non-violently, of course, just, righteous indignation, as it were. Let that anger flow against these Republicans who failed to back our president up, who failed to stand up to what we know happened on the election, who I don't think adequately defended him against the witch hunt that went on for 3 years over the Russiagate baloney. And so these guys like McConnell and the other guy who's, when I really dislike somebody, I totally even just X their name out of my mind, and he'll come to me in a minute when I'm not so mad at him right now. But these rhino Republicans at the national level, and I'm going to say it right here. Our Oklahoma senators are rhino Republicans. They're not fooling me. You should have heard. I'm not even going to go down the whole thing about what happened in Tulsa 100 years ago and what role our current senator has in it, and how he's just like, he sounds worse than the most liberal Democrat you ever heard right now. He just sounds like one of the enemy. He doesn't sound like a Republican senator at all. And the other one is just old and soft in the head, and there's no way he can win another term in the Senate. Like, he's done. I think he might have even announced his retirement, our Oklahoma senators. So those positions are both vulnerable for a primary within the Republican Party or the introduction of a third party on the state level. So that's what I want to talk about. Starting a third party within the Republican Party that takes control of the local house, the county house, the state house, and eventually the White House through regular political structures. We just supplant the Republican Party and we pull in the Libertarian Party, because that's the biggest problem with rhinos, is they're not libertarian enough, if you ask me. That they don't really love the Constitution. Here's how you know. Because anyone that wants that, this is my main problem with the Q folks again, is that, they wanted to violate other people's constitutional rights because they thought they knew what was best and they had the facts and the information. And so who cares about your constitutional rights? We're just going to come for you. Right? But that's what so people on both extremes are not constitutionalists, right? And libertarians are just the opposite of that. They're like, well, it's better to let 1,000 murderers go unpunished than it is to punish one innocent man. And that's the way it's been in this country. The government had an obligation to never violate an individual's rights. Okay? And it was something that we, the founding fathers, okay, the original Americans, put into our Constitution and into our structures of government, was to prevent that kind of thing. So, the third party is an option on the local level. And borrow something from the leftists. They have a saying that I got from them, that it's think globally, but act locally. And we should do that with a third party. And then once you turn your whole county to Patriot Party, right? And no one would dare run as a Republican there because they know that that's a sure way to lose. And Democrats aren't going to get a chance anyway, because I'm talking the really red counties in Oklahoma and Texas and Tennessee, right? And the Carolinas, the Virginia counties that border West Virginia, places like that. Just start voting, instead of Republican, start voting for Patriot Constitutionalists. And pull in the Libertarians, because Libertarians get a significant, a mentionable percentage of any election. Right? And those people are just the strict constitutionalists. And who we don't want to infiltrate our party are people who think the Constitution doesn't matter, or anyone who has the idea that it's rules for thee but not for me. Right? What we want are people that believe in small government, lower taxes, secure borders, um, aggressive international trade that benefits the country, right? No entanglement in foreign wars. The right to keep and bear arms and the right to freedom of speech and the Fourth Amendment are non-negotiable and should not be infringed. And any government agency that does that should be dissolved immediately, disbanded, and replaced with something completely different. Excuse me. So we're at a crossroads. We can go the way of war, the way of the Titor timeline. Things may be beyond our control, and no political or even war-based option is going to protect us from the might of this evil power that's arisen, and only Jesus can save us. That is the story of the book of Revelations, and many people are saying it has begun. Many pre-tribulation rapturists are looking at prophetic statements by prophets who claim that there isn't a pre-trib rapture, and that the church will have to endure the entire 7-year tribulation period. And they're saying it started on 2021, and Jesus will return in 2028. And that we have a 7-year period that started now with this inauguration. And of course, 2020 was just a setup for how things are supposed to go now. According to that timeline, what we have to look forward to in the next 7 years, according to the book of Revelations, is, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis probably caused from earthquakes and or asteroids hitting the earth, deep impacts. We're talking like a 90% loss of life. We know there is a fourth path, the path they want to force us down, which is Agenda 21, the Great Reset, global government. And all of that is actually their version of the book of Revelations. I mean, it's kind of like the devil's advocate. If you look at the plan for the United Nations, the New World Order, and the future for the world, the global enslavement of every country on earth to a international cabal of businessmen who control everything. That pathway is very much in line with the book of Revelations, the 7-year period of tribulation. So there's going to be groups listening to this. They're going to be like more towards the Q believers who are now disgruntled and going, okay, we just need to go after them. Let's start a fight, right? They started it. Let's finish it. There's that crowd. And then there's going to be this other crowd that are Christian black-pilled, right? Who are going to be like, okay, let's, we're just going to have to endure this. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's just pray and, pull our family in close. And when they martyr us, they martyr us. Or if we get raptured, we get raptured. And there's going to be people that are kind of on the fence with both those ideas. Maybe we've got one foot in each world. But then there is this narrow possibility that, let's say, civil war isn't inevitable, and that there is a way out of civil war. Let's assume that maybe we're just like many generations before, like the generation that was in the Cold War that thought they were in the end times too. They thought Gorbachev was the beast because he had a mark on his head, right? And so they were convinced that they were experiencing the end times, and maybe we're in the same deception. If so, if both sides are wrong, if both ideas are wrong, and the third option is the most realist of all of them, which is, we can beat these people through strategy. This is an attempt on our country that we can turn around through political means and through political strategy, and by embracing and each other and building a coalition to defeat communism and globalism and one world government, and get us out of the UN, get us out of all this stuff, get us out from under all of these ridiculous taxes, and get us business freedom, life freedom, and more of a libertarian, real world libertarian reality. And the Patriot Party is a process that could bring us there. Okay? If we could pull from the hashtag walk away from the left side, and then we can pull from the Patriots on the right, we can bring the rebels and the Q people into the fold, right? and decide that we need a political movement here that dwarfs anything America's ever seen before. It's our last chance at a political move. And I tell you what, if you control your local elections, you control the way the elections are counted, the kind of machines they use, and everything. And there's time to do that within this 4-year period. If we can stop from going to war and Jesus don't come back, we ought to be working towards this peaceful political ideology where hopefully we can take our country back through political means by the construction of a third party and giving the leftist and the communist socialists the opportunity to pull away from the globalist center, their idea of the center, which is, I mean, they thought they hired Biden from the center, and they kind of did. He's going to protect China and Russia and every other nation in the world, and the United Nations and the EU and Great Britain and all the little orphans in every little island before he helps our people here. It's America last up in there. Okay? I won't get into why that is, but it's clear that's what's happening and going to happen, and that's who you elected. And that's not sitting well with the extreme left. Look at it this way. I saw them burning Biden flags and American flags in Portland recently. They're burning Biden flags in Antifa now. And it's one of those, if the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. That's kind of hard to swallow for me and Antifa. You know how I feel about those thugs. But at the same time, it's nice to see them wake up and smell the coffee about their own party. You know, the rhino version, and what would you call a Democrat in name only, a dino? The rhinos and the dinos who represent the corporate oligarchs, okay? You know, those guys are the enemy. And they're the ones that are getting under the skin of all of us. And so it's good to see them wake up over there on the far left. And hopefully they'll split their party. Let's split both parties. Really, we have 4 parties anyway, and we're trying to stick them into one. But one of the ways that we can do it without giving up all of our senators and all of our chance at the executive branch position, the presidency. One way around that is to just put the Patriot Party in control of all of the local. I mean, here in Oklahoma, it's a one-party system. The Democrats just really don't hardly have a chance of winning, especially nowadays. And so if we could create another party that when the Patriot Party wins, if the Republican Party goes, okay, this is not our party, but we kind of got to side with the Patriot Party because we got to beat the Democrats. So we could work with the Republicans against the Democrats and team up on them while still maintaining our own ideology. And it makes the dinos and the rhinos more forgivable to a degree. If I have a voice of my own and I have a dog in the fight, you know, I got a pony running in the race, you see, then I'm less affected when the fix is in. There's your horse racing analogy. So what I'm trying to say is think globally, but work locally. Let's build a Patriot Party in your city, in your county, and in your state. When you get a majority of counties who have Patriot Party members in control of key offices, then you move for your Congress first and then your Senate positions from your own state. So we would want to turn, hey, I'm telling you, Stephanie Bice is probably turnable over to the Patriot Party. The lady who is from Eastern Colorado, I wish I could remember her name, but the 5-foot-tall, 100-pound nothing girl that goes around packing a pistol, that was fighting with the D.C. to get into the Capitol building with her gun, which, you know, if one thing the infiltration of the Capitol building and the failure by the Capitol Police might have taught the local, our politicians rather, on the national level, is that they should probably oblige themselves of the right to keep and bear arms, because they might need it in these troubled times. And if I was her, I'd fight tooth and nail to get to carry my gun in the Capitol building. But I think she's turnable to a Patriot Party. Another thing we could do is we could get Republicans, people who are Patriot Party minded people like Rand Paul, to just convert over and to defect to the Patriot Party. But, you know, and I don't know if Trump is the guy to make that happen, but I know that if he decides to do it, we should jump in. Just because he's got the organization, the MAGA organization, already in place, change the name to protect the innocent, rearrange a few things, and you got yourself a third party ready to go. And I think if we started a third party and started to have an impact, especially on local elections, that would encourage the socialists to pull away from the Democrats, and that would leave these dinos and these rhinos exposed for the corporate shills that they are, right? And you would have yourself a socialist, democratic, extreme left, and you would have us, I guess we're the extreme right over here on the Libertarian Patriot Party side. We absorb the Libertarian Party. I guess the leftists would probably, for the most part, absorb to some degree the Green Party. And we pull in these smaller to create a coalition. And we pull in the centrists, because most of the centrists are starting to lean further right all the time, because they didn't see the need for firearms until they were faced with situations where you felt uncertain about your safety. And then a firearm is very comforting, whether you use one or not. It is. It helps you sleep at night. It's better than a warm glass of milk when you hear explosions in your neighborhood, let me tell you. And, well, I wouldn't say that. I'm not sleeping if there's explosions in my neighborhood, but you get the analogy nonetheless. So this could be beyond our control. In that case, we're just the martyred church inside of the book of Revelations, and the best we can do is to stand, and there is no help coming unless it comes on the cloud with Jesus and his angels, and maybe we'll get raptured, and maybe we'll just get to see the greatest touchdown of a divine alien entity you've ever seen in your life in the second coming. You know, where the sky breaks open and enormous clouds stop the earth from spinning in times no more. You know what I mean? I won't get into the whole, please, let's not turn this into a book of Revelations thing, but maybe we're down that road. If we are, it's still our duty to find a peaceful way. Because if we get to the point where we got a Patriot Party that's controlling, say, the entire state of Oklahoma government and the entire state of Texas government, with exceptions within the Dallas and Houston and Austin area, because that's going to be hard to ever turn over. But what's red now becomes Patriot red instead of Republican red. Okay? If that starts to happen in those states and we can't catch any ground in the national office, then we're in a much better position also to just go ahead and secede from the Union and start our own republic. And I think the idea that that's impossible to do without bloodshed is moronic. Why? Why? Why is it impossible to do without a war? Why is it impossible to have an amicable divorce from Washington, D.C.? You know, when they put all those troops around Washington, D.C., I just laughed and went, spend your money. Spend it. Spend all that big dollars. Put up that fence. Put them men to work. You're bankrupting yourself. Because I don't want Washington, D.C. I don't care anything about Washington, D.C. You know, all those things you hold sacred, if they just dissolved overnight from a giant alien goo that just dropped on them and then we just came out there was nothing but a green field full of flowers, I wouldn't shed a single tear because of what you've made this country represent. That a lot of the things that I used to defend, I'm finding harder to defend because to me, you know, it's like those presidents. They had all those presidents and they're telling Trump how he ought to act, right? They had 3 of them on the inauguration day. And all I could think of was, you 3 guys are the ones that screwed this country up. It's all y'all's fault. You guys did this. We're in this situation because of the decisions you made. Why should we listen to a dang thing? You 3 failed presidents. Why do we glorify these people? You know, I'm a patriot and I believe in patriotism, but I don't believe in blind patriotism. I will tell you this. When this fiat, phony, banana republic, you know, puppet head president put his hand on some kind of book, we'll say it's the Bible, I still think it's a penthouse, and swore himself in, right? You know, when he was selected and appointed president, my American flag got folded up. You can see it right here in the corner, right over here, right? Wait, can I touch it? Wait, how do I do this? This is so hard. Right there. See it poking out? That's the American flag I've been flying for years. It's about the 3rd one. They wear out eventually when you fly them all the time. I folded that one up in proper Marine fashion and stowed it away here on display next to the old Marine's legit flag that came from off of his coffin. And what flies in front of my old cabin now is the Don't Tread on Me flag. So I think that the key to defeating these people is a third party and a calcification, solidification, and consolidation of political power of the populist Trump type. Okay, we call it the Patriot Party if you like. Give me a better name, I don't care. But the idea, we need to get that in control of our red counties, our red cities, and our red states. Okay, and turn them Patriot red, not Republican red. You know, and then also, here's the thing about starting a new party is that you can vote for your party, I think, and still vote in a Republican primary. You can declare yourself a Republican. Depends on the state. I'm not going to tell you to do something illegal. But, well, I crossed the aisle and voted for Obama in the Democratic primary in Texas to keep Hillary from being put in the position. And then I ended up drinking Obama's Kool-Aid and voting for him in the national because I couldn't stand his opponent either. Another rhino. Rhinos everywhere. We're covered up in rhinos and dinos, man. You'd think we're on Jurassic Park or something. It's a rhino dino attack. We need an alternative. I think now is as good a time as any. It's probably our last opportunity to make this work. We have some momentum behind Trump. Essentially, Trump was a third party who took over the Republican Party. But I believe now, since I saw his failures, I see why that didn't work. Because even if you invade Republican rhino land, you're still a guy standing alone in the middle of a field full of rhinos with nothing but a wooden stick to defend yourself with. And that if you're going to beat the rhinos, what you really need to do is find out what they're eating, and take their food away so they starve to death and you never have to fight them. They'll just die. Figuratively speaking, obviously, this is an allegory. I'm not talking about killing anybody. I'm talking about starving the Republican Party of its funds by creating a third party and draining off their power base and draining off whatever political money they've got. So all they've got left is corporate dirty money, and they're exposed for what they are. Pitchmen for the New World Order. God save our republic, and we'll see you in future videos. Wolverine!